By mid-25 ABY, the Yuuzhan Vong had made serious inroads into the Star Wars galaxy, capturing planets as far as the Mid-Rim, partnering with the Hutts, and preparing for a strike against the core. The New Republic was struggling to not only form a meaningful resistance against the extragalactic invaders, but also to manage and transport displaced refugees to safe worlds. The Hutts were one of several groups within the galaxy working with the Vong. They specifically were helping with slave transportation and allowed the Hutts to use and even terraform their worlds as part of the war effort. In return, the Hutts were spared and given notice of supposed Vong fleet movements and New Republic targets. All of this would come to a head during the Battle of Fondor. It all starts when the New Republic realizes, with the help of Talon Card, that the Hutts have stopped spice transportation in the Corellia and Bothawi sectors. Hutt informants covertly confirm the New Republic's suspicions that those two systems are likely Yuuzhan Vong targets. However, believing themselves privy to inside knowledge, the New Republic sees this as an opportunity. They move the advanced 5th Fleet to Bothawi, while a second task force is dispatched to the nearby system of Comenor. The plan is to present Corellia as a lucrative target, then to hit the Vong with a weapon they have no knowledge of, Centerpoint Station. I'll cover Centerpoint in depth on a later date, but the basics are pretty simple. It's a very advanced space station with incredible gravity manipulation powers created by a long-dead race. It was believed to have formed the Corellia system itself, and in the Corellian trilogy is used to generate a system-wide interdiction field. Centerpoint is also able to generate gravity waves, which can be used as weapons. 7 years earlier, Anakin Solo had reactivated and taken control of the ancient station, so he is sent, along with his brother Jason, to help prepare it for battle. The New Republic's plan was to use the interdiction fields to trap the Yuuzhan Vong at Corellia. The Comenor Task Force, as well as portions of the Fondor and Kuat fleets, would, presumably with the help of Centerpoint Station, destroy the invaders, representing a massive victory. The New Republic is able to jump into space covered by a Centerpoint interdiction field because of their use of inertial momentum sustainers, created and used during the Corellian crisis 7 years ago. As this is happening, Leia is courting the Hapes, asking the usually isolationist Empire to help the New Republic, as the Vong threat now grows more serious and threatens everyone equally. Former suitor Prince Isolder convinces the Hapes to help, and a fleet is formed. The fleet is armed with New Republic interdictor cruisers, and its purpose is to stay outside of the Corellian system, preventing any fleeing Vong from jumping to hyperspace should they escape the gravity well of Centerpoint Station. Alongside the New Republic's machinations, Han Solo is helping his new friend Dromo track down his family, who were refugees of the invasion. It's eventually discovered that they're being transported on a ship heading for Fondor. Also tracked to that planet is a Vong cluster ship holding captured Jedi Worth Skitter. Kip Duron's famous starfighter squadron, Kip's Dozen, follow the ship to the planet. Aboard is also a Yamosk war coordinator, an extraordinarily important Vong asset. And this
is where the fun begins.
The Vong were aware of the likelihood of Hutt treachery, and the actions of the New Republic were fairly transparent, especially after traitorous Kuwati Senator Vicky Shesh warns of a trap at Corellia. Instead of springing the trap, the Vong intend to attack the vital shipbuilding planet of Fondor. To prepare, they've been growing coral skippers in Hutt space and seeding Fondor hyperlanes with Dovin basils. Given that Han and Kip's squadron have just arrived at Fondor, this seems like quite a coincidence, but it's not. First of all, the Trevi, the ship transporting Dromo's family, was dumping refugees at Fondor's because the captains made a deal with the Vong. A deal meant to make sure any survivors of the invasion made their way back into harm's way. The cluster ship, on the other hand, was heading to Fondor to rendezvous with the rest of the incoming fleet. As Han identifies the Trevi and chases it, hundreds and hundreds of capital ships appear out of hyperspace, and the Falcon is only able to slip by. Joining at the rear of the formation is the cluster ship and Kip's Dozen. The Dozen and the Millennium Falcon disable the cluster ship, which is then boarded by Kip. As for the battle, the Fondor shipyards are completely unprepared, having spent some time creating the hyperspace inertial momentum sustainers for the supposed Corellia attack. Over 30 large ships, including Star Destroyers, are present but docked or under construction. Coral skippers immediately begin suiciding the shipyards. The New Republic First Fleet, which was either very close by or already at Fondor before the battle, is able to mount somewhat of a defense, but they're up against perhaps 1,000 capital ships. Reinforcements from Bothawui are unable to reach Fondor because of the degree of hyperspace obstacles, and their only option would be to return to the rim and take an unseated route, something that would take far too much time. Only the sizable Hapen force has clear passage. They jump to Fondor. Back at the battle, Kip and Ganner Rizzotti board the cluster ship and kill the Yamosk. Unfortunately, Worth cannot be saved, though several others, including a Hutt, are. On Corellia, Anakin is facing perhaps the greatest moral dilemma of his life. He is uniquely qualified to use Centerpoint Station as a weapon, and is capable of hitting the Vong fleet, even with the significant distance, but his brother argues that to strike aggressively as such would be against the Jedi Code, and a path to the dark side. By the time the Hapen fleet arrives, the Fondor shipyards have managed to mount a defense against the fighters, but are being bombarded by capital ships, which the Hapen battle dragons immediately engage. However, as the reinforcements move into range, what Leia calls a 1,000-kilometer wide beam of savage focused annihilation rips through both forces, causing extraordinary devastation and even breaking part of Fondor's moon and singeing the planet. Thrak and Sal Solo, Han's cousin, who had been with the Solo children on Corellia, had taken control of Centerpoint and inexpertly fired the weapon, destroying not only half of the Vong flotilla, but 2/3 of the Hapen reinforcements. In the end, the Yuuzhan Vong are forced to retreat. However, it's very difficult to call this a win for the New Republic. Although the losses to New Republic capital ships were minor compared to the other factions, their allies, the Hapens, were seriously damaged. Overall, it's difficult to classify the Battle of Fondor and to decide really who won. There were, however, several main effects. First, the Hutts moved from uneasy ally to the Vong to perhaps the top of their hit list. However, speaking of damaged relationships, the one between the Hapens and the New Republic was obviously heavily strained. And what's more, Hapen society would split fairly heavily over the Battle of Fondor. An interesting impact is that the Vong's view of the New Republic was changed quite significantly. They didn't realize that Thrak and Sal Solo was acting on his own, and thought the New Republic was willing to sacrifice a large portion of their fleet just to damage the Vong navy. No act of ferocity like that had been seen prior. Within the New Republic, Sal Solo rose to fame and was seen as somewhat of a hero, while Anakin was left with the question of should he have fired the repulsor. He knew that he could strike the Vong fleet without any friendly casualties, and this raises the question of when should a Jedi strike, even when striking defensively. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Just a reminder, it's a part of a longer playlist all about the Yuuzhan Vong War. Hopefully you guys can keep up with the action, especially if you've never read the series before, but let me know what you think down in the comments, and as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on future videos. Anyway, until next time, this has been EckhartsLadder. May the Force be with you.